Hi everybody, it's Irene with Brainstorm Acres. And as you'll notice, I'm moving around some totes. Now these totes were some of the original potato totes that we planted up by the greenhouse. They were planted April 11th. So it's been about 77 days since we planted them. All of a sudden this past week, now we have a bunch of totes up there, but just these two, which are the same variety, started browning off. We double checked to make sure we'd watered them. No problem, they just browned off. So it's time to move on. I've moved them to the yard because I'm going to put them right on the edge of this graveled area. I can run irrigation right off of this. I'm going to plant sweet potatoes in these two totes. And I have yet another experiment that involves different types of sweet potato slips. Do I really expect a lot of difference? No, but I hear various theories on how to grow your sweet potato slips, so I've done them two different ways. So let's get started with the potatoes. As you can see, these browned off, both of them did. And all the water in the world didn't do any good. There's still water in the bottom of this one. As you can see, when I tipped it to bring it, it had some water standing in the bottom, but just a tiny bit. It has holes in the bottom, so it can't drown, but so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just dump this in here and we're going to see what happens. First I think I'll dump that water out. I don't want to make mud. I expect it to be muddy in the bottom, but it'll be interesting because we haven't been completely happy with the way this these are ant eggs, yum. It turns out there was an ant nest underneath there. Our friendly little neighborhood critters were moving in. And we have no idea whether this is going to produce anything or not. These are the little pieces of landscape fabric that were in the bottom. I'm not thrilled with the smell in the bottom here. It's a little bit soggy. But as you can see, there were potatoes in here at one time. And I have no idea whether these produced anything. Huh? Well, we got a couple of new potatoes for sure. Huh. Okay, well, these were actually potatoes from the kitchen. These were not any kind of potato seeds. We were not able to get our usual potato seeds this year locally, and we just sort of decided to wing it with stuff that was left in the kitchen. So basically anything, there's the original. Basically anything we get out of here is something more than we would have gotten if we had just left the potatoes in the kitchen to rot. So I don't remember how many plants were planted in here initially. See, now this was still trying to do something, but it just didn't do right. And you can see that wasn't showing above the ground. So it might have come back if we had left it long enough, but since we didn't know what was going on, we just decided it was better to give up and say, okay, it died. It's possible this is all we have. Yeah, there's several seed potatoes in here. I thought there were 4. But now this was just pretty much compost. And we were finding we were having a hard time keeping it moist. It tended to sog and shrink and it's kind of a pain. We did mix in a little bit of potting soil on top, and that did seem to help because it just didn't seem to have enough capacity for maintaining moisture. Okay, well, that's not exactly what I'd call a stellar harvest, but it's something at least. So this is the first batch, and this batch was actually slightly in the shade of the other ones, so we'll see. It was interesting. These just didn't, I guess is the best way to put them. I'm trying to just shovel this back in because I'm concerned that if I start trying to dump the wheelbarrow in there, I'm just going to make a mess. And I am going to add a little fertilizer to this and then replant it with something else. In this case, sweet potatoes. Now, potatoes and sweet potatoes are not in the same family. Potatoes are in the nightshade family, and sweet potatoes are in the morning glory family. So they don't share a lot of diseases, which is great, because it means we don't have to particularly worry about disease as a major issue here. So that's a good thing. And here we go. Let's see what we get here. I can see 1 or 2 potatoes in there. So I had planned to let these sit a lot longer than we did. See, there's a potato. And there's the original. And there's another one and another one. The rest of our potato plants are doing fine. None of this made any sense. So we just decided to give up on these 2 particular buckets of potatoes because they had died back. And historically, when we've tried to revive potatoes and then rewater and all that kind of stuff, they didn't do all that well. And sometimes we lost a bunch that just rotted. So we didn't want to do that. And I have a bunch of sweet potato slips sitting in the kitchen that I've been wanting to plant out. And I was actually waiting for one of the buckets of brassicas to be done. But when these decided to shake off their mortal coil last week, we decided that we'd go with this batch. I could still plant more sweet potatoes later. I still have a virtually unlimited supply of sweet potato slips in my kitchen. Not stellar, but I'll take it. The 2 different buckets. The one I just did is the one over there. It had even less than the first. But for the 2 of us, that's enough new potatoes for a meal. So we'll take it. As I mentioned when I planted these, it was sort of weird. These had both been sold to us as russets, and yet it was obvious we have 2 different kinds of russets, and this was one kind. This is what we call the bumpy russets because the sprouts that we were planting had lots of bumps on them, and then the other ones were smooth and didn't have bumps. Now we have the stuff we need. I have the soil from both of the containers back where they were. There's another seed potato. I brought out some potting soil. This is regular old Miracle-Gro potting soil. And I'm going to mix it in because I feel like they just need a little something. I do not want to put a lot of fertilizer in this. I also added a little bit of new compost from the bag that I used on the bean bed the other day. And that should be enough nutrition. The sweet potatoes do not want to be heavily fertilized. If you heavily fertilize them, you get a lovely, amazing plant and no sweet potatoes. So since what we're growing here is, we're going for the sweet potatoes, not the plant, we'll just not over fertilize. All right, there we go. Now, I have 2 different kinds of slips. I have slips that were created by cutting. I have a sweet potato plant living on my counter in the kitchen, and it has shoots off of it and long trailing vines with leaves. Now, the long trailing vines with leaves, at every node where the leaves are, you'll see these little bumpy spots, which if you put them in water will turn into roots. So that's exactly what we did with a bunch of these pieces of vine. I'm going to simply plant these guys in here. I'm just gonna pick the nicest ones. I'm gonna put a total of probably 4 or 5 in this bucket. Historically, when I've planted these things, some of the things make it, some of the things don't, so I figure, we'll plant a bunch and hopefully somebody will make it. There's 4 nice ones. And I'm planting them deep because why not? They have roots down there. I'm going to water these in well, put these guys back in their thing because I still may do some more sweet potatoes. But I'm going to stick these in the shade for right now, and I'm going to specifically mark this bucket. I have stickers made up. It says sweet potatoes, stems. These are the stems. So these were stems where I rooted and in water, just plain old water in an old iced tea container. And there we go. Nothing fancy about these labels. They are left over from the shipping labels that I use for my business. And these are all sweet potatoes that were the actual shoots that were coming off of the potato, and they had already started to grow some roots. So again, same concept. We stuck it in water. Same exact iced tea container, as a matter of fact. And here we go. So what I'm going to do this afternoon here, I'm going to water these, and then I'm going to actually put a little bit of shade over here because these have not had that much sun, and this is going to be a bit of a shock to them to suddenly be in full sun. I want to make sure these guys have some stuff down in the dirt. Okay, and this one is going to have its label too, and this one says sweet potatoes sprouts. So these were actual sprouts off of the sweet potato itself. And we'll see if there's any difference. I hear some people say you have to do it one way, and then some people say you have to do it another way. I think in the wild it's probably a combination, and well, my yard is not necessarily the wild. It comes pretty close. So we're going to give this a shot and see what happens. I'm going to water these well. I'm going to put up some shade, and we'll keep you guys posted. This was just a random sweet potato that we got at the grocery store that happened to sprout. And we have another bucket similar to this up by the greenhouse that has had sweet potatoes growing in it for quite a while. And I'm going to write all this down, and we'll figure out anything we can figure out. Sometimes you really can't figure out anything. But I figure if I get anything at all out of these, last year we got a couple of pounds of sweet potatoes, but we also figured out what was going on with our plants. We figured out that they were being eaten by grubs. So that helped us avoid that this year by using nematodes to eat any grubs that might be in the soil. And you know, you don't always succeed, but we learned some stuff. And that in and of itself is useful. And we did get some sweet potatoes. They were delicious. So, hope this inspires you. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And we'll see you again soon, because I had a list this long of stuff I need to get done this week. So, for now, bye.